Hi again, I'm filming from my gallery and studio in Buxton, Derbyshire. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today we're going to be having a look at hand colouring Intaglio prints. An Intaglio print means that the ink is kept in the grooves and indentations rather than on the surface like a lino, where you would roll ink onto the surface of the lino, and then when you put the paper on, the paper takes the ink off the surface and anything that you've cut into the lino remains white. It's more or less the reverse in an intaglio. It's the lines that you make, the scratches or etchings, collagraphs as in collage, anything textured that can hold the ink. That's what prints. Anything flat or shiny behaves differently. It can be burnished off so that it is white on the paper, or it can be rolled with ink as well. It's quite complicated, but basically intaglio is holding the ink in the indentations rather than lino where the ink is on the surfaces. This is my lovely etching press made by Eddie Picton, and there's just a quick look at the images hung on the studio. The etching press has this heavy wheel on it which is screwed down with springs on either side, so it exerts a lot of pressure on the paper. So you lay your plate on the bed of the press, you place soaked Fabriano paper on top of it, and you pass it underneath the rollers, which exerts a great deal of pressure. You'd normally put a couple of felt blankets on top of this, and then when you lift it, the indentations and the marks on the plate will print, but you can also use the surfaces. I mean, say this has got either ink rolled onto it, or it's got fabrics and cards and things that are porous enough or textured enough to contain the ink. So here I've got a couple of dry point intaglio plates. It's metallized card that you can scratch into with a fine sharpened steel point. A sharpened screwdriver works, but there are special intaglio tools for it. And these are the plates that have then been framed. And what is so nice about them is that the last set of inks, once you've inked it up to go through the press, are left in the plate, and they stick in these beautiful ways and mix and merge within the holes that you've made in the plate. The result is that the inks are then pulled out of the indentations and onto the paper, so you do get these really lovely mixes of colour on it. Now, my dilemma with these is that this to some people might not seem enough. For instance, this is an emerald tree picture which I think is quite elegant in its simplicity, but somebody else might feel the painting or the picture, the image, wasn't quite complete, that it was too sparse. Like this one of the last plate, the little very simple tree. So I have to admit that I sell them better if they are painted afterwards. So the initial inks that I use when it is printed are oil-based intaglio inks. So they're very light fast and they're very water resistant. And what I use is a light fast ink to sort of fill in the background, to fill in the blues. And you can see I have done work on the base as well, because before it was a simple line drawing. Well, not quite, because as you can see, all the leaves which were indentations in the plate contain ink which gets transposed onto the paper. So this is another plate, a larger plate, more complex, with the last lot of inks after printing left on the plate. And you can see all the colours have mixed and merged beautifully. And this is the print from that plate. Well, again, although it is lovely close up, I can understand that quite a lot of people feel this isn't quite enough. And so I'm going to demonstrate how different they look when they've got the paint on them. And these are 3 tree pictures, all without the paint, the light fast watercolour paint, on after they have been printed. So again, these are printed in oil-based intaglio inks that get stuck into the grooves and indentations of the plate. I absolutely love the way the inks get stuck into the grooves of the plate. And this is a similar image to the others, only it has got the paints on it. And in this case, I've added the sort of fairy lights into it. And you can see that the original marks done with the intaglio printing process enhanced by the addition of the light fast inks. This tree picture particularly shows how beautifully the inks mix on the plate, get caught in the grooves, so you can get ink into the depths of the plate and inks on the surface of the plate, which allows you to mix colours, and they mix and merge in the process. It'll be interesting for you to see just what this looks like when it's been painted. So there's infinite possibilities. You've got the colours of the oil-based inks in the first instance from the first print, and then you can add lots of different colours with the light fast water-based inks. And of course you can really mess with these and enjoy the possibilities of it. So again, no way am I a purist. I enjoy altering the colours of each print. I don't necessarily do a run of 25 that are all the same. I mix the colours as I go along. This is one which doesn't have any light fast inks on yet, but we're going to do this one. I think I'll probably go for sunsetty sort of colours in this one. One more to show you, just that this one is done not like the fairy lights of the other one. It's not the same print either, but it's got these lovely subtle colours, soft hues that, because of the white of the paper underneath, come through really luminous, very much like watercolour would do. And I just want to show you how lovely it is where the oil-based inks have got caught into all the different layers of the plate. So all these are available in my gallery and studio. If you're interested in them, don't hesitate to contact me. Okay, I'll get on with it now. For this demo, I'm using the shot glasses just to mix up the light fast inks. I've got some clean jar lids to mix up the colours in, because I add much more water, make them very translucent. Water, paintbrushes, and bare watercolour paper just to test out the colours. The inks I use are just the Rowney FW Acrylic Artist's inks, and I use these because they are very light fast. The pigment in them is extremely strong, so I water them down, add water, and add a couple of drops from the pipette of the top of the bottle. I've already mixed them, as I said, with some water in the shot glasses, but I was also test them out before I use them, just to see what sort of colours they are creating. I mean, obviously you become familiar with them through experience, but for instance, that is a very acid yellow, and this one is a much warmer yellow. So you've got to be really aware of the sort of tonality of things a bit. And same with these, I've got 3 reds. One is very pink. I think they're very similar. This is a very pink one. and that one was more red, and then this one is a good deal more orange or deep red, not so much pink. You can't really tell on those in the light there. There you go. In any case, just be aware what sort of tones you're playing with. There'll be a list of the things you need in the description below, including the types of inks that I use. So decide on the colours you want. I'm going to start off with this simple small one because it's quick and easy and will work really nicely. What has happened to the paper is that in being passed through the press, it gets really compressed. And I don't know if you can see that, but the plate gets indented into the paper. So you can always tell that that's an original etching. If it's indented, you can feel it on the sides. But that compression of the paper also seems to contain the inks so that they don't spread about the place beyond the edges of the actual plate. So this one I'm going to keep as really nice autumnal colours, sunsetty colours. So get some idea of the colours you want, and it is amazing how little pigment you need. So I've already diluted the pigment into the shot glasses, but I'm also mixing the colours I want and diluting it in water at this point. The other thing to do is to try and keep the paintbrushes for each colour to a degree so that they're nice and clean and don't corrupt the colour when you paint. Simply drag the colour down pretty quickly and put a lot on so that you get some pigment in there, but yet still have the water moving the colour around, so it's still moving around within the watercolour. I want a yellow in the middle to make it look like the sun's coming through, and very quickly it becomes quite a lot more atmospheric. You just keep your paintbrush to the edge of the paper and put your pigment on, and that's it. So that one seemed incredibly simple, but it's worth giving it a go. Just going to put a bit more yellow in just to liven it up a bit. A few little leaves in there, leave it to dry, keeping an eye on it so that it doesn't cauliflower. But that one's done. Working like this really informs your practice, and you learn so much from the way that the paint reacts to the processes that you're using, especially if you mess around and experiment. This little print and the others that I've shown you, where the inks and the oil-based inks of the Intaglio process get stuck into the grooves, really informs the way that I use paint. And paintings like the impasto oil painting with thick paint comes directly from the process of inking up an intaglio or a colograph plate. Thick layers of paint are applied and allowed to mix and corrupt each other as you apply them. Scratching into them and mark making is also something I use, and is a direct result of the way that the paint lies in the colograph plates. And layering paint and layering colour and allowing the process to develop over a period of time has also greatly influenced the work as I proceed. There is a similar print I did, but in much more greens and yellows, and you can see the trunks are blue. And this is the one I took out of the mount, and I'll decide what sort of colours I'm going to do it in. So consider the colours first, get myself ready, and then do it quickly. Again, I think this one's going to have to be sunset one again, just lends itself to the oranges. So I shall get some colours again. That's a really nice pink. This is much more orange. And this colour here, this should be a very bright, that's a limey yellow, but there should be a warm yellow. Where's my warm yellow? Yes, here's more of a warm yellow. It looks like it's an ochre in the pot, but it is in fact a warm yellow. Right, so I want this to be a nice autumnal sunset again. It's a bit of an easy option that, but that's what it's going to be. So again, I'm going to rub in some yellows for the background with a lot of water so that you're using the luminosity of the paper as well. And then I'm going to use a different brush and start picking out a orange. That red is really intense, so there you go, there's an orange. And that's come out quite intense, so you can water it down a bit. So really, this is going to be just quite good fun, this one. And the other thing you can do as you learn, as you go on, you will see that you can add the colour after, and it does actually sort of remove some of it, but you'll have to learn that as you go along. And also, because it's such a spontaneous, quick way of doing things, it will mix on the paper. So even that, you have to be aware that it's going to happen. Lift colour out with tissue. And sometimes it'll move out, sometimes it won't. You have to watch hard edges. That yellow is incredibly intense actually, but it's nice in there. I want some blue over on the left hand side just to give it that look of the light coming through. It's a bit green on this side, which I don't like in comparison to the blue, so I'm just going to bung in a bit of yellow in there as well. Yeah, just to take out that funny green hint of it. Right, I think that's about it. So again, that's pretty quick. And sort of liven up the base. I might take a bit of this warmer yellow just to liven it up, and of course when it dries it will dry lighter, so it will change a bit. And I want a bit more orange in it, make it more interesting in some areas. And again, it's just melting into each other because it's damp, everything is damp and everything is so soluble and disperses so much, and yet it stays within the boundaries. And I'm clumsy, so it's not difficult to make it stay within the boundaries. And if it doesn't, you can sort of rub it off afterwards around the edges and neaten it all off. Oh, that's nice, that pink in there's nice. Adds a more duskiness. Whoops, too much. Take it off. And if it doesn't come off, you've got to not worry. It's just one of those happy accidents, because that is too much. So now I'm just going to balance it off with more colour, because that is too much. And I'm not going to get that off. So it's taken on that intensity, and I'm going to have to go with it. I mean, it's quite nice for you to see a mistake like that, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And because it's got so much of that colour in the top, I feel it needs some at the bottom too. because otherwise the shading's wrong. There, I think that's pretty intense. Make sure your brush is clean if you're going for a sort of evidently different shade. It's lost all its subtlety. It's a bit of a bright image, but someone's going to like it. And you can even add shading to the trees, like so. Made a mess there and I'm going to take it out a bit. It's more of a dusk than I expected. And there we go. Right, we'll see what that looks like when it's dry. There's that one. One, two. The last one. Move some of these out of the way. Hello. So that, I'm just getting a bigger brush so that this is done quite quickly. There's already a lot of yellow on this one. I don't really know where to go with this. It's yellow and green. Again, I wish you could shout it out. Just having a look at this as it dries. And that's too intense, that red over that corner. And there's not enough of it elsewhere, so I'm just going to bring some in. And again, take it out. So it's just a question of keeping an eye on it as it dries. I'm just adding colour if you feel it's necessary. I'll keep an eye on that. Right, now this one. There's so much colour on this and it's so intense that I might keep it really, really light. So I'm going to go for a warm yellow, but very, very light, because it'll just get too confused otherwise. So there's some warm yellow, keep it within the boundaries, and already there is the, it just changes the background, doesn't it? It makes it more complete, or so many people feel it does. So many people want that finished off look. I mean, even that is so simple and is enough. I really don't think that needs much more. Again, such a shame you're not here screaming out advice, because I would listen to you. What's quite amazing is you can really put quite a lot of water on it and it doesn't ooze out the edges because it's been compressed, the paper's been compressed. Oops, that's wrong yellow. There, you see that's too intense a yellow. Just take it out a bit. Really, that's all it needs. I might put a bit of green. There is an emeraldy green here. Mix that with the acid yellow. Should make a pretty acid green, which is the colour of this here. Can you see that? Yeah. Right, now I'm just going to bung in some of that at the bottom. And I'll put a bit of blue in that too, just to look like a bit of the undergrowth. Change my brush there, I think, just to be able to lift it through a bit more. Take some out. But that might not look enough when it's dry, but I think that's enough personally. I don't want that one overdone. So there you go, there's 3 of them done. 1, 2, 3. And lastly, just to show you the print painted, the more complex Intaglio dry point print. It's not the same print, it's just a demo really, but you can see what they look like when they're painted. In this instance, the acrylic inks have been kept within the lines of the drawing. It's fairly precise, and in this image the inks have been allowed to bleed out of the drawing and into the surrounding colour, and it's just as nice. It doesn't have to be precise is what I mean. So that's just light blues, oranges and yellows filling in the lines of the drawings. So this one will be transformed into this. That's a bit blue, that one, too bright for my liking. That's more like it there and there. And last of all, just to show you the pieces finished and in their mounts. And the little one in the middle is without its mount, and they look so much better presented in their mounts. If I could ask you to like and subscribe, and remember to press the notification button if you would like to be told when other videos are going to be uploaded. I am going to be doing some lessons showing you how to do the actual collagraph plates. If you press the notification button, I'll let you know when this is going to happen. Thanks very much, hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you again. All the best.